The message from my father arrived while I was in the middle of coaching 20 teenagers through their first competitive gaming tournament. My phone buzzed with his text. Family announcement this weekend. Your presence is required. My name is Avery, and that single message managed to derail my entire week. I hadn't been home in months. Not since the last disastrous family dinner where my stepmother Karen had spent the entire evening showcasing my half-sister Claire's latest achievements while pointedly ignoring mine. Miss Collins. One of my students waved frantically from their gaming station. The server's acting weird again. I pocketed my phone, pushing aside the knot forming in my stomach. Coming, Tommy. And remember, in tournament play, we troubleshoot first, panic second. The rest of the day passed in a blur of technical issues and coaching sessions. By closing time, my phone had 3 missed calls from my father and another text. This is important, Avery. Don't skip out like last time. That night, I sat cross-legged on my couch, staring at my phone while my fiancé Ethan cooked dinner in our small kitchen. You're doing that thing again, he said, stirring something that smelled amazing. The one where you overthink everything until your brain explodes. I don't overthink, I muttered, then caught his knowing look. Okay, fine. But Dad never demands family meetings. Something's up. Maybe Claire finally learned how to tie her shoes without help, Ethan joked, then sobered when I didn't laugh. Sorry. Low blow. I sighed, remembering the last time I'd seen my younger half-sister. Claire had spent the entire evening making subtle digs about my little gaming club, and how it must be so fulfilling to play with other people's children since you can't have any of your own. That particular barb still stung. I should go, I said finally. If only to stop Dad from sending the National Guard after me. The drive to my childhood home that weekend felt longer than usual. Each mile marker brought back memories of growing up there after my mom died, of my grandmother Helen raising me while Dad was deployed, Claire's arrival when I was 12, and her mother Karen's immediate campaign to remake our family in her image. I pulled into the circular driveway, noting Claire's shiny new Mercedes parked in my usual spot. Of course. Dad opened the door before I could knock. You're late. Hello to you too, I said, accepting his awkward hug. He smelled the same as always, Old Spice and coffee. Some things never changed. The living room was exactly as I remembered, down to the family photos on the wall. I noticed with a twinge that Grandmother Helen's portrait had been moved to a less prominent spot. Claire sat in Helen's old armchair like she owned it, Karen perched on the armrest beside her. They both wore matching expressions of barely concealed satisfaction that made my skin crawl. Now that we're all here, Dad cleared his throat, Claire has some news. My sister's hand drifted to her stomach in a gesture that made my heart sink before she even opened her mouth. I'm pregnant, Claire announced, her smile sharp as a knife. You're going to be an aunt, Avery. Isn't that wonderful? Now you'll finally get to experience what it's like to have a baby in the family, even if it's not quite the same as having your own. The room went silent. I felt the familiar sting of tears threatening to form but forced them back. Claire's words hung in the air like poison, perfectly crafted to hit where it hurt most. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We thought you should hear it in person. Family first, right? I managed a tight smile, even as my fingers curled into fists at my sides. Congratulations, I said, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. If you'll excuse me, I need some air. As I walked out onto the porch, I heard Karen's voice drift through the open window. She's always been dramatic. Don't let her ruin your moment, sweetheart. I leaned against the railing, letting the cool evening air clear my head. Something in me had shifted, hardened. This wasn't just about the baby announcement. This was about years of subtle cruelty, of calculated jabs and manufactured competitions. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. You okay? I wasn't. But I would be. 'Cause for the first time in my life, I was done playing nice. I didn't expect Dad to follow me onto the porch, but there he was, closing the screen door behind him with that familiar, careful quietness, the same way he used to check on me after Mom died. Your grandmother used to stand right there, he said, gesturing to where I was leaning against the railing. Watching storms roll in. I remember. I didn't add that I also remembered how Helen was the only one who stood up to Karen when she tried to redecorate the entire house, claiming the porch furniture was too country. The wicker chairs were still here, a small victory in a war of attrition. Karen's organizing a baby shower next month, Dad said, his voice carefully neutral. She wants to do it here. Course she did. The same house where Helen had raised me, where I'd spent countless hours reading in the window seat that Karen had later converted into a display case for Claire's cheerleading trophies. You don't have to come, he added quickly. Don't I? I turned to face him. Won't it look bad if the aunt doesn't show up? Won't Karen have something to say about that? He flinched. Avery. The screen door creaked open and Claire waddled out, one hand on her barely visible bump. Daddy, Mom wants to know if you'll grab more wine from the cellar. The good stuff, not the cheap bottles Avery brought last time. I hadn't brought any wine last time. Claire knew that. Sure, princess. Dad disappeared inside, leaving us alone. Claire's sweet smile dropped the instant he was gone. You know, you could at least pretend to be happy for me. I am happy for you, I lied. Thrilled, even. Really? Because you stormed out pretty quickly after my announcement. I needed air. You needed attention, she corrected, moving closer. Just like always. Poor infertile Avery can't stand someone else being the center of attention for once. My nails dug into my palms. Is that what you think this is about? I think it's about what everything's always been about with you. Jealousy. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You're jealous that I can have what you can't. That I'm giving Dad his first grandchild. That Mom loves me more than. Karen isn't my mother, I cut in. And Helen left me the house. Claire's face went white. What? I hadn't meant to say it. The paperwork had arrived last week, Helen's final gift, held in trust until my 28th birthday. I'd been waiting for the right time to tell everyone, but Claire's smug superiority had cracked something in me. The house is mine, I said, the words tasting like victory. Grandmother Helen left it to me in her will. I get full ownership next month. Claire's hands trembled. You're lying. Ask Dad. He's known for years. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. So, maybe you should rethink having your baby shower here. Wouldn't want to impose. The screen door slammed open. Karen stood there, her face twisted with rage. I heard everything, she hissed. How dare you? How dare I what? Inherit my grandmother's house? Claire is pregnant. This is her moment, and you're trying to ruin it with your spiteful little power play. Karen. Dad appeared behind her, holding a wine bottle. What's going on? Your daughter is trying to kick us out of our home. That's not what I said, I protested, but Claire was already crying, her hands protectively covering her stomach. The stress isn't good for the baby, she sobbed. She's trying to hurt my baby. Dad looked between us, lost. Avery, maybe we should discuss this another time. Of course, I said quietly. Take care of your pregnant daughter. It's what you do best. I walked to my car, ignoring Karen's continued accusations and Dad's weak attempts to call me back. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Claire in my rearview mirror. She wasn't crying anymore. Instead, she was watching me leave with the same calculating expression she'd worn when she'd announced her pregnancy. This wasn't over. We both knew it. But for the first time, I had something she wanted. And I intended to use it. The message that broke me came from Sarah, my oldest student's mother, 3 days after the family dinner. She wanted to discuss some concerns about my mentorship program. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, expecting questions about tournament schedules or equipment fees. I was wrong. I heard some disturbing things, Sarah said, stirring her untouched latte. About your situation. My stomach dropped. My situation? Your sister Claire reached out to several parents. She mentioned your condition might affect your ability to relate to children properly. Sarah wouldn't meet my eyes. She suggested we might want to consider other programs. The coffee shop's ambient chatter faded to white noise. Claire hadn't just attacked me personally, she'd gone after my business, my students, everything I'd built. My infertility has nothing to do with my ability to teach, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Tommy's tournament rankings have improved by 30% since he started with us. I know, but what? Claire's pregnant, so suddenly she's an expert on children? Sarah shifted uncomfortably. She mentioned she's starting her own youth program. Something more traditional, less competitive. Of course she was. Claire had never shown any interest in gaming or coaching before, but now that she knew it mattered to me, I stood up, nearly knocking over my chair. Excuse me. I need to make a call. Sighed, I pressed my forehead against the cool brick wall and dialed Claire's number. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting. Hello, sister dear. How are you coping with the house news? Cut the act, I snapped. I know what you're doing. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm just looking out for children's best interests. After all, what would our grandmother think about you using her house to run a business teaching kids to waste their lives playing games? Don't you dare bring Helen into this. Why not? She's the reason you think you're better than everyone else. Perfect Avery, Helen's favorite, too good for family now that she has her precious inheritance. Is that what this is about? You're sabotaging my business because you're jealous of a house? Claire's laugh was bitter. I'm protecting vulnerable children from someone who can't possibly understand what it means to be a mother. You should thank me, really. Now you won't have to pretend anymore. I ended the call before I could say something I'd regret. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from Claire. By the way, I've already got 5 of your students' parents interested in my new program. Funny how quickly they change their minds when they learn the truth about you. I slumped against the wall, fighting back tears. Years of work, of building trust with these families, and Claire was destroying it all with a few well-placed words. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. Hey, you okay? Your afternoon class is starting soon. Class. I'd almost forgotten. I had 6 teenagers waiting to learn advanced strategy techniques, kids who trusted me, who'd improved under my guidance despite my condition. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. Claire wanted to play dirty? Fine. But she'd forgotten something important. I'd learned strategy from the best. And Helen hadn't just left me a house. She'd left me her entire gaming collection, including journals full of tournament notes dating back decades. I texted Ethan back. I'm good. Actually, I have an idea. Remember that charity tournament we talked about? The one you said was too ambitious? Things change. How fast can you set up a live stream event? And can you get your developer friends involved? Give me 48 hours. What are you planning? I smiled, thinking of Claire's smug face when she thought she'd won. Teaching my sister a lesson about games. And family. And why you should never underestimate someone just because they can't have children. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in days. Claire thought she could use my infertility against me. She was about to learn that some battles aren't won by having the right biology, they're won by having the right strategy. And I'd been strategizing my whole life. I found the adoption pamphlets while cleaning up after dinner. Ethan had hidden them under a stack of gaming magazines, but they spilled across the kitchen counter when I moved them, glossy pages full of smiling families and promises of new beginnings. I was going to bring it up differently, Ethan said from the doorway, making me jump. Maybe over wine. Or after the charity tournament. My fingers traced the edge of a pamphlet. How long have you been thinking about this? Since before Claire's announcement. He moved closer, careful, like I might bolt. I know the timing seems reactive, but what? You thought now would be perfect? Well, my sister is actively trying to destroy everything I've built because she thinks I'm unfit to be around children. That's exactly why we should consider it. Ethan picked up one of the pamphlets. To prove her wrong. To show everyone that family isn't about biology or pregnancy announcements. It's about love and choice. My phone buzzed, another parent withdrawing from the program. Third one this week. Claire would use it against us, I said quietly. She'd say we're only doing it to compete with her pregnancy. To steal her spotlight. Since when do you care what Claire thinks? Since she started poisoning my entire life. The words burst out louder than intended. She's turning everyone against me, Ethan. Parents, Dad, even my own students are starting to doubt me. And now you want to add adoption scrutiny to that mix? I want to build a future with you, he said. One that isn't defined by what Claire does or doesn't do. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. Claire's having complications. Doctor ordered bed rest. She's staying at the house. Thought you should know. Of course she was staying at the house. My house. The one Helen left to me. She's moving in, I said, showing Ethan the message. She's actually moving into the house before I can even claim it. Can she do that? Dad's still technically the executor until my birthday next month. He can let anyone stay there he wants. I laughed, the sound hollow. Want to bet she'll have redecorated my old room for the nursery before I get the keys? Ethan was quiet for a moment then. Maybe we should move. What? After the tournament. After you get the house. We could sell it, move somewhere Claire can't reach us. Start fresh, maybe look into adoption agencies in another state. Run away, you mean? I stared at the pamphlets, at all those perfect families smiling up at me. Let Claire win. Let her have an empty victory while we build something real. Another text from Dad. Karen's organizing a baby shower here next week. Claire really wants you there. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I picked up one of the adoption pamphlets, really looking at it this time. A young couple played with their adopted daughter, their faces bright with genuine joy. No forced smiles, no calculated performances. Just family. Helen always said the house was meant to be a home, I said slowly. Not a weapon. What are you thinking? I reached for my laptop. I'm thinking it's time to change the game. Claire wants to play happy families? Fine. But first, we're going to show everyone what real family support looks like. I pulled up the charity tournament plans we'd been working on. What if we made it bigger? Not just gaming, a full community event. Supporting local adoption agencies, foster care programs. Using Claire's tactics against her? No. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Using my grandmother's strategy. She always said the best way to win isn't to tear others down. It's to build something so beautiful they can't ignore it. Ethan grinned. I love it when you get that look. What's the first move? I picked up my phone, ignoring Dad's text to compose a different message. This one to all my remaining students' parents. Invitation to a special announcement. Time to show you what our program is really about. Claire wanted war? I'd give her something better, hope. And maybe, just maybe, I'd find some for myself along the way. The lawyer's office felt too small for the 5 of us. Dad sat between Claire and me, while Karen hovered protectively behind Claire's chair. The inheritance paperwork lay unopened on Mr. Peterson's desk, but that wasn't why we were here. Let me understand this correctly, Mr. Peterson said, adjusting his glasses. Miss Collins, you're requesting an early transfer of property ownership due to unauthorized renovations? I placed my phone on his desk, playing the video Tommy's mom had sent me yesterday. The footage showed Karen directing workers at the house, supervising as they carried Helen's antique furniture out to a waiting truck. They're gutting my grandmother's home, I said. Without permission. We're preparing the nursery, Karen cut in. Richard approved it. Dad shifted uncomfortably. I didn't realize they were removing Helen's things. Of course you didn't. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. You never notice anything when it comes to Claire. Claire's hand moved protectively over her bump. The doctor said stress isn't good for the baby. And that old furniture was full of dust, and that furniture was my inheritance. My voice cracked. Everything in that house meant something. Every piece had a story. Stories don't matter to a baby, Claire said softly, her eyes gleaming with false concern. But I understand why you're so attached. It must be hard knowing you'll never have a real family to pass these things down to. The room went silent. Even Karen looked shocked at Claire's cruelty. Miss Collins, Mr. Peterson cleared his throat, legally speaking, until your 28th birthday next month, your father retains executor rights. However, given the circumstances... My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. Local news picked up the charity tournament story. They want to interview you about combining gaming with adoption awareness. Something clicked in my mind. I'd like to make a proposal, I said, sitting straighter. Dad, you want peace in the family. Claire, you want the nursery. Fine. Keep the house for now. Claire's triumphant smile lasted exactly 3 seconds. But I'm hosting my charity tournament there next week. A full media event highlighting local adoption services and foster care programs. After all, I met Claire's eyes. It's still legally Dad's house, and he always taught us about giving back to the community. Right, Dad? Dad's military posture returned, the way it always did when he was cornered. That seems reasonable. You can't be serious, Karen sputtered. Claire needs rest, not some noisy gaming circus. The event will be in the backyard, I said. Claire can rest upstairs. Unless there's some reason you don't want the community seeing inside the house. Claire's face went pale. She knew exactly what I was implying. If they refused, people would question why. Especially after Claire had spent weeks spreading rumors about my fitness to work with children. I think it's a wonderful idea, Mr. Peterson said, clearly enjoying the drama. Very much in keeping with Helen's philanthropic spirit. Fine, Claire snapped. Have your little event. But don't think this changes anything. That house will never be yours in the way that really matters. You'll never fill it with family the way I will. I stood up, gathering my things. You know what, Claire? You're right. I won't fill it with family, because family isn't about filling spaces. It's about building connections. Something Grandmother Helen tried to teach us, though clearly only one of us was listening. As I reached the door, Dad called out, Avery, wait! The event team will be there Monday to set up, I said without turning around. Try not to remove any more of Helen's memories before then. Outside, my hand shook as I texted Ethan. It's done. Plan B is go. His reply was immediate. You sure about this? Once we start, I looked back at the lawyer's office, where Claire was already playing the victim for Dad again. She thought she'd won by taking Helen's house. She had no idea that some victories came disguised as losses. I'm sure, I typed. Time to show everyone what real family looks like. And this time I had more than just games up my sleeve. I had truth. The charity tournament was supposed to be my moment of triumph. Instead, I stood frozen in Helen's backyard, now barely recognizable under Karen's garden party decorations, watching Claire steal even this from me. As someone who truly understands the importance of nurturing children, Claire was saying to the local news reporter, one hand resting on her visible bump, I'm excited to announce my own youth mentorship program, one that focuses on traditional values and real family connections. The camera panned to capture the crowd's approving nods. Several of my former students' parents stood among them, including Sarah, who couldn't quite meet my eyes. Of course, Claire continued, her voice dripping with false concern. We'll welcome all children, even those from alternative family structures. After all, Everyone deserves guidance from someone who understands traditional family values. Ethan's hand found mine, squeezing tight. We can still shut this down. It's your event, your grandmother's property. Actually, Karen stepped forward, brandishing a paper. We have something to share about that. She smiled at the reporter. Richard, dear, would you like to make the announcement? Dad emerged from the crowd, looking uncomfortable but determined. Given Claire's condition and her new community program, we've decided to transfer ownership of the house to her permanently. The paperwork was filed this morning. The world tilted sideways. You can't, I whispered, but the microphones picked it up. The inheritance was contingent on several factors, Karen cut in smoothly, including the property's continued use for family purposes. Richard and I agree that Claire's program better serves that intention. Claire's triumphant smile felt like a knife. We're keeping Helen's legacy alive the way she would have wanted, by nurturing future generations. Not through video games. I spotted Helen's chest set through the window, still sitting in its familiar spot. The one thing they hadn't packed away yet. My vision blurred. You want to talk about Helen's legacy? My voice shook. Let's talk about what she really wanted. Let's talk about the letter she left. Commotion near the house cut me off. Tommy, my youngest student, had slipped inside and was now running back out, Helen's chest set clutched in his arms. Miss Collins! I saved it before they could. He tripped. The antique chess set flew from his hands in slow motion. Pieces scattered across the patio like broken dreams. The hand-carved board splitting with a crack that felt like Helen's heart breaking all over again. This is exactly why children need proper supervision, Claire announced to the crowd. From people who understand. Shut up. The words came out raw. Just shut up, Claire. You didn't even know her. You spent every holiday at your mom's parents' house. You never sat with Helen, never learned her stories, never. But I'm giving her what she always wanted, Claire interrupted. A real family in her home. Children. A future. What can you offer except broken games and empty rooms? Cameras were still rolling. My students watched with wide eyes. Everything I'd built, everything I'd planned, lay shattered like the chess pieces at my feet. I think we're done here, Karen announced, moving to usher the reporters toward Claire. We'll have a proper press release about the new program tomorrow. Dad stepped toward me, conflict written across his face. Avery, don't. I backed away, nearly tripping over the chess pieces. Just don't. I turned and ran, ignoring Ethan's calls, ignoring the murmurs from the crowd. Behind me, I heard Claire's voice rise again, as I was saying about traditional family values. My car wouldn't start. Of course it wouldn't. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel, finally letting the tears fall. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. I opened it, expecting more disaster. Instead, I found a photo, Helen's desk drawer, partially open, revealing a sealed envelope with my name on it. Below the photo was a message. Found this while they were packing up. Thought you should know. The moving guy. Through my tears, I smiled. Maybe Helen had one last move to play after all. Breaking into my own inheritance wasn't exactly how I'd planned to spend the evening, but here I was, picking the lock to Helen's study while Ethan kept watch. The moving truck wouldn't arrive until morning. This was my last chance. Someone's coming, Ethan whispered. I finally felt the lock click. 2 minutes. That's all I need. Claire's voice drifted up the stairs. I just need to grab something from the study. The decorator wants to see. The door opened before I could hide. Claire stood there, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the doorframe. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I knew it, she said, her voice rising. Mom. Dad. Avery's trying to steal. The letter. I held up my phone, showing her the photo. That's all I want. The one in Helen's desk. There is no letter. But her eyes darted to the drawer. Karen's footsteps thundered up the stairs. I lunged for the desk, yanking the drawer open as Claire screamed, "She's attacking me!" The envelope was there, just as the photo showed. I grabbed it just as Karen burst in, Dad right behind her. "She pushed me." Claire stumbled backward dramatically, but her heel caught the antique rug. This time, her fall wasn't staged. She went down hard, crying out in genuine pain. "Claire!" Karen rushed to her side while Dad blocked the doorway, his face a storm of confusion and anger. "I never touched her," I said, backing away. "Check the security cameras." Helen had them installed everywhere, remember? To protect her antiques. Claire's face went white. "The cameras are working perfectly," Ethan cut in, holding up his phone. "I'm a developer, remember? Accessing their feed was pretty easy. Especially since Avery still had Helen's passwords." "Show me," Dad demanded. Ethan pulled up the footage. We watched in silence as it showed me entering the study, Claire following, and her deliberate stumble, followed by the real fall that no one had caused. "You've been recording us?" Karen's voice shook with rage. "Invading our privacy?" "No," I said, opening Helen's letter. "I've been protecting her legacy. The way she taught me." The letter was short but devastating. Helen had known about Claire and Karen's manipulations. She'd left the house to me with specific conditions, including one that said if anyone tried to contest the inheritance through legal means, everything would be donated to a children's charity instead. "You can't prove when that was written," Karen snapped. "We'll challenge it." "Check the metadata on the security footage," Ethan said quietly. Helen recorded herself writing and sealing this letter 3 days before she died. She knew exactly what would happen. Claire struggled to sit up, her face twisted with pain and fury. "This doesn't change anything. I'm still giving Dad what you never could, a real family, a grandchild, a future." "Claire," Dad's voice cracked. "Stop." We all turned to him. He looked older suddenly, defeated. "I watched the footage," he said. "All of it. The way you've been treating your sister, the things you've said about her students, her business." He shook his head. "Helen was right. I've been blind." "Richard," Karen started, but he held up his hand. "The house stays with Avery, as Helen wanted. And Claire." He finally met my eyes. "You owe your sister an apology." Claire's laugh was bitter. "For what? For wanting what's rightfully mine? For trying to build something real instead of playing games?" "That's exactly what Helen was afraid of," I said, reading from the letter. "Family isn't about ownership or control. It's about nurturing growth, supporting dreams, and understanding that love multiplies. It doesn't divide." I folded the letter carefully. "Keep the furniture you moved. Keep the renovations. But the house is mine. And I know exactly what I'm going to do with it." "What's that?" Claire spat. I smiled, thinking of the adoption pamphlets waiting at home. "I'm going to fill it with family. Just not the kind you understand." As I walked out, I heard Dad following. Maybe some bridges weren't completely burned after all. But first, I had a real legacy to build. 6 months later, I stood in Helen's study, my study now, watching the sunset paint the walls gold. The room still held her presence, though I'd made some changes. Her chess set, carefully restored, sat beside my gaming equipment. Old and new, just like she would have wanted. The sound of children laughing drifted up from the backyard. My advanced gaming class was having their graduation ceremony, complete with proud parents and a local news crew. This time, the coverage was about our program's success, not family drama. "Miss Collins." Tommy poked his head in. "They're ready for the presentation." "Thanks, buddy. I'll be right down." He hesitated. "Is it true? About you and Mr. Brooks adopting?" "News travels fast," I smiled. "We're just starting the process. It's going to take time." "Cool." He grinned. You're already pretty good at the mom stuff anyway. As he bounded away, I caught my reflection in Helen's old mirror. I looked different somehow, stronger maybe. More like her than ever. Dad was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. We'd been rebuilding slowly, coffee dates and careful conversations. Today was the first time he'd visited the house since everything happened. Karen left, he said quietly, after Claire's baby shower last week. Said she couldn't handle the shame of. He trailed off. The video going public? The security footage had leaked somehow, not through Ethan or me, showing Claire's manipulations and lies. Her traditional values program had collapsed overnight. Dad nodded. Claire's staying with her aunt in Colorado. Says she needs space to find herself before the baby comes. He met my eyes. She asked about you. Did she? Wanted to know if you'd really turn the house into some kind of gaming orphanage, her words. I laughed. Just a regular gaming academy. Though we do offer scholarships now, thanks to Helen's foundation. Through the window, I could see Ethan setting up the presentation screen, my students helping him arrange chairs. Sarah, who'd returned with a heartfelt apology after the truth came out, was organizing refreshments. Helen would be proud, Dad said. Not just of this, but of how you handled everything. You didn't let anger win. No, I agreed. I let love win. The way she taught me. We walked outside together. The evening air was warm, carrying the scent of Helen's roses, the one part of the garden I hadn't changed. As my students gathered for the ceremony, I noticed a familiar figure standing at the gate. Claire. She looked smaller somehow, less certain. When our eyes met, she didn't smile or wave. She just watched, one hand resting on her bump, as I awarded certificates and praised each student's achievements. As I announced our new adoption support initiative, partnering with local agencies to help families navigate the system. When the ceremony ended, I expected her to leave. Instead, she walked to Helen's rose garden, touching a bloom gently. She taught me about these once, Claire said as I approached. I pretended not to care, but I remembered everything she said. Why are you here? I don't know. She looked lost. Maybe to see what real legacy looks like. We stood in silence, the roses swaying between us like memories. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said finally. But my baby. Your niece. I don't want her growing up thinking family is about winning and losing. It's not, I said. It's about growing. Sometimes together, sometimes apart. She nodded once, then turned to leave. The roses look good, she said softly. You take care of them like she did. I watched her go, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. We were both Helen's roses, grown in different gardens. Later, as Ethan and I cleaned up, he asked, You okay? I looked around at my home, at the gaming equipment and chess sets, at the adoption paperwork on my desk, at Helen's roses blooming in the twilight, at all the different ways love could grow. Yeah, I said. I'm exactly where I need to be. Family, I'd learned, wasn't about blood or birthright. It was about choosing to nurture what matters, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Just like Helen always said.
Money has a way of revealing people's true nature, especially when it belongs to someone else. I learned this the hard way when my husband Michael called me at work, his voice dripping with that fake sweetness I'd grown to despise. Elena, darling, we need to discuss tonight's dinner arrangements. I pressed my phone closer to my ear, already sensing the trap beneath his words. What arrangements? I've invited the entire family to LeBlanc. Mother and father are flying in specially for this. You'll need to cover the expenses. About $25,000 should do it. The number hit me like a slap. $25,000? Are you insane? Now, darling, don't be difficult. I've already made the reservations. You wouldn't want to embarrass me in front of everyone, would you? I gripped my desk, knuckles white. My credit card is maxed out, Michael. You know this because you're the one who maxed it. His laugh crackled through the phone. sharp and dismissive. "Oh, that old story again? I told you I'd pay you back. Besides, you have other cards, which I've canceled." The words came out before I could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. When he spoke again, his voice had lost all pretense of warmth. "You did what?" "You heard me. I canceled them all except one, and that's for emergencies only." "You stupid bitch." The mask dropped completely now. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I needed those cards." I felt a strange calm settle over me. For what, Michael? More gifts for Sophie? Or was it Hannah this time? Another silence, longer this time. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, calculating his next move. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said finally, his voice steady but strained. "But you will show up tonight, and you will find a way to pay for this dinner. Otherwise, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of woman you really are." I laughed, surprising myself with how hollow it sounded. "And what kind of woman is that?" "A paranoid, controlling wife who can't handle her husband's success. I wonder what mother will think when she hears about your little jealous fantasies." Margaret, his mother, had always taken his side. Even when the evidence of his lies stared her in the face, she'd find ways to excuse him. Robert, his father, wasn't much better. Too wrapped up in his business empire to notice his son's growing web of deceit. "Fine," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'll be there, 8 o'clock, right? 7:30? Don't be late." He hung up without waiting for my response. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling something shift inside me. For 3 years, I'd watched him drain my accounts, make excuses, and gaslight me into believing I was the problem. 3 years of suspicious charges, mysterious business meetings, and perfume scents that weren't mine. Opening my drawer, I pulled out the manila envelope I'd been saving for the right moment. Inside were credit card statements, hotel receipts, and photographs. So many photographs. Sophie leaving his office late at night. Hannah at expensive restaurants, wearing jewelry bought with my money. Each piece of evidence carefully collected, dated, and organized. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel, my oldest friend. "You okay? You look like you're about to murder someone." I glanced up to see him watching me through the glass partition of his office, concern etched on his face. I typed back, "Not murder, something much worse." Tonight, at LeBlanc, surrounded by his family and their expectations, I would finally show Michael exactly what kind of woman I really was. And it wouldn't be the meek, forgiving wife he'd taken advantage of for so long. I touched the envelope gently, like a weapon I was finally ready to use. 7:30 couldn't come soon enough. LeBlanc's crystal chandeliers cast judgmental shadows across the white tablecloth as I watched Michael work the room. He moved between his parents with practiced charm, touching his mother's shoulder, laughing at his father's jokes. The perfect son. I gripped my wine glass tighter, knowing what was coming. "Elena, darling, you're so quiet tonight." Margaret's voice carried that hint of criticism she'd perfected over the years. "Is everything all right?" "Just tired from work," I said, forcing a smile. "The firm's been busy. Perhaps if you focused more on home life." She let the suggestion hang in the air like poison. Michael swooped in, all teeth and tailored suit. "Mother, you know how dedicated Elena is to her career." His hand found my shoulder, fingers digging in slightly, warning me. "Speaking of careers," Robert cut in, "Michael tells me you've been having some financial difficulties?" The restaurant seemed to still. I met Michael's gaze across the table, saw the slight shake of his head. "Don't you dare." "Actually," I said, reaching for my purse, "I wanted to discuss that." Michael's wine glass crashed to the floor. Red liquid spread across the pristine carpet like blood. "Clumsy me," he laughed, but his eyes were hard. "Elena, help me clean this up." He practically dragged me toward the restroom corridor, grip bruising my arm. "What do you think you're doing?" "Telling the truth for once." I yanked free. "Someone has to." "You embarrass me tonight, and I swear." "You'll what?" "Max out another of my cards? Sleep with another colleague?" His face went still. that dangerous stillness I'd learned to recognize. You're hysterical. This is exactly why I can't trust you with our finances. Our finances? I laughed. You mean my savings that you've been bleeding dry? Everything I've done has been for us, for our future. He stepped closer, voice dropping. But you're too selfish to see that. Michael, Margaret's voice, floated from around the corner. Is everything okay? He immediately softened his expression, the mask sliding back into place. Fine, Mother. Elena's just feeling unwell. I watched him transform, saw how easily he switched between personas. It made me sick. Back at the table, Robert was deep in conversation about the company's latest acquisition. The merger's going through next month. Michael's been instrumental in making it happen. Yes, I said, unfolding my napkin. He's been working very late hours recently, especially with Sophie in accounting. Michael's fork clattered against his plate. Margaret frowned. Sophie? I don't believe I've met her. Oh, she's quite memorable, I continued, ignoring Michael's glare. Blonde, 28, favors Cartier jewelry, particularly the bracelet Michael bought her last month. Elena, Michael's voice was warning thunder. Or was that for Hannah? I get confused sometimes, tracking all these charges. Robert's bushy eyebrows drew together. What exactly are you implying? Nothing, Father, Michael cut in. Elena's been under a lot of stress lately, imagining things. Am I? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. Should we discuss the hotel receipts, the mysterious weekend conferences that only you seem to attend? Margaret's hand flew to her throat. Michael, she's lying, he snapped, but sweat beaded his forehead. She's always been jealous of my success. Success? I felt eerily calm now. Is that what we're calling fraud these days? The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Robert's face darkened. What fraud? Michael stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. This dinner is over. Elena's clearly not well. Sit down. Robert's voice cut through the restaurant's murmur. Both of you. I watched Michael's face as he slowly sank back into his chair. For the first time, I saw fear crack through his perfect facade. Now, Robert continued, someone is going to tell me exactly what's going on with my company's finances. I reached for my purse, where the manila envelope waited. Michael's hand shot out to stop me, but it was too late. The evidence of his betrayal was already spreading across the pristine tablecloth, like the wine stain on the carpet behind us. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was done being patient. The silence in Robert's home office felt like a noose tightening. I watched him examine each credit card statement, each hotel receipt, his face growing darker with every page. Michael sat beside me, leg bouncing, his usual swagger replaced by something closer to fear. $200,000. Robert's voice was deadly quiet, transferred from company accounts to personal expenses over the past year. I can explain, Michael started, but Robert held up his hand. To jewelry stores, hotels, restaurants. He picked up a particular receipt. A weekend at the Four Seasons, under business development. Margaret stood by the window, her back to us all. She hadn't spoken since we'd left the restaurant. The company's doing well, Michael said. I've earned some perks. Perks? Robert slammed his hand on the desk. You're stealing from your own family. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a specific email. There's more. Michael lunged for my phone, but I was faster. Elena, don't. An email from Sophie to Hannah, I read, my voice steady despite my racing heart, discussing how to divide their bonuses from Michael. Margaret turned sharply. What bonuses? Hush money, I said, to keep quiet about their affairs. You're lying, Michael's voice cracked. She's making this up, Mother. You know how jealous. Stop, Margaret's voice was ice. I saw the way Sophie looked at you at the Christmas party. I didn't want to believe. A knock at the door made us all jump. Ethan, Michael's business partner, stepped in, his face grim. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. The SEC is asking questions about recent transfers. The color drained from Michael's face. What questions? They flagged several large transactions as suspicious, something about patterns consistent with embezzlement. Robert stood slowly, his hands shaking. You didn't just steal from us, you put the entire company at risk. I was going to pay it back. Michael's composure finally shattered. Everything was under control until he jabbed a finger at me, started meddling. Under control. I pulled out one final document. Like the gambling debts you've been hiding? Margaret gasped. Robert snatched the paper from my hands, his eyes widening as he read. $500,000. His voice was barely a whisper. To underground betting rings. Michael slumped in his chair, defeated. I had a system. I just needed more time. Time, Ethan interrupted. We don't have time. The SEC wants answers by Monday. Get out. Robert's voice was like gravel. Get out of my house, and don't come back until you've spoken to our lawyers. Father, please, now. Michael stood on shaky legs, looking to his mother for support. But Margaret had turned back to the window, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. As he stumbled toward the door, he paused beside me. You've destroyed everything, he hissed. I hope you're happy. I met his gaze steadily. No, Michael, you did this yourself. I just showed everyone who you really are. After he left, Robert collapsed into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 62 years. Elena, I owe you an apology. We all do. Don't. I stood, gathering my things. I didn't do this for apologies. I did it because someone had to stop him. What happens now? Margaret asked, finally turning to face us. Ethan cleared his throat. The company will need to conduct an internal audit, and Michael, well, he'll likely face criminal charges. I headed for the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. There's a recording, I said quietly, of Michael threatening me when I discovered the first affair, and documentation of every unauthorized charge, every manipulation. When you're ready to move forward with legal action, call me. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. You okay? I looked back at the house, where I'd just destroyed my husband's carefully constructed world of lies. The strange thing was, I didn't feel victorious, just tired, and ready for whatever came next. No, I typed back, but I will be. Because this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of Michael's long fall from grace, and I intended to watch every moment of it. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly and unreal. I sat across from Detective Morris, watching her flip through the evidence I'd gathered against Michael. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, even though I'd rehearsed this moment countless times. Mrs. Anderson, she said, setting down a particularly damning bank statement. This goes beyond simple fraud. I know, my voice sounded hollow, even to me. We're looking at potential money laundering, tax evasion, and, she paused, studying a new document. Connections to illegal gambling operations. Your husband's been busy. The word husband made my stomach turn. Ex-husband, soon. My phone buzzed. Daniel again. Sophie's looking for you, says it's urgent. I ignored it. Sophie could wait. I'd given her enough already. The recordings, the paper trail, her precious immunity deal. Detective Morris leaned forward. There's something else. We found transfers to offshore accounts we can't trace, large ones. That's not possible. I'd tracked every penny. I would have seen. These are sophisticated, professional. She slid a paper across the desk. Someone's been helping him hide money for years. Someone who knows what they're doing. The implications hit me like a physical blow. I thought of Ethan, Michael's supposedly loyal business partner, who'd seemed so shocked by the SEC investigation. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. You don't know the whole story. Meet me at Riverside Park, now. E. Mrs. Anderson, Detective Morris was watching me carefully. Is there something you're not telling me? I stood, gathering my coat. I need some air. We're not finished. I'll be back. There's just something I need to check. The park was deserted this late, wind whipping off the river. Ethan stood by the railing, looking older than his 40 years. You helped him. I didn't bother with pleasantries. All this time you knew. It's not that simple. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Michael has something on me, on all of us. What do you mean, all of us? The company's been dirty for years, Robert included. He laughed bitterly. Why do you think Michael got away with so much? His father taught him everything he knows. My world tilted sideways. Robert, the stern patriarch who'd seemed so shocked by his son's crimes. You're lying. Check the offshore account, ending in 4891. That's where the real money is. Robert's retirement fund, built on decades of fraud. My phone buzzed again. Sophie. Michael knows you're talking to the police. He's going to pin everything on you. Claims you were the mastermind. Has documents to prove it. Why are you telling me this? I asked Ethan. Because tomorrow, the SEC isn't just coming for Michael. They're coming for all of us. He handed me a USB drive. This has everything. Every transaction. Every player. Including proof that you had nothing to do with it. Why help me now? Because you're the only one who tried to stop it. He turned to leave, then paused. Elena, be careful. Michael's not the only one with something to lose. I drove home in a daze. The USB drive, burning a hole in my pocket. My phone kept buzzing. Daniel, Sophie, unknown numbers. I ignored them all. At home, I poured a glass of wine with trembling hands and plugged in the drive. Document after document filled my screen, each one worse than the last. Robert's signature, Margaret's silent complicity, Ethan's careful bookkeeping, a family business built on lies, with Michael as just the latest in a long line of corrupt inheritors. A knock at my door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Margaret, her face streaked with tears. Elena, please, we need to talk. I rested my forehead against the door, thinking of all the times she'd defended Michael, all the years she'd known exactly what was happening. Elena, her voice cracked. They're arresting Robert tomorrow. Michael's threatening to tell them everything, about all of us, about you. I thought of Detective Morris, waiting for my return, of the evidence I'd so carefully gathered, never realizing I was only seeing the surface of a much darker truth. My phone buzzed one final time. Michael, last chance to make a deal, darling. Meet me at midnight, or everyone goes down, including you. I looked at the USB drive, then at my phone. In trying to expose one man's lies, I'd stumbled into a conspiracy that could destroy everyone involved, myself included. The question was, how far was I willing to go to see justice done? The hotel bar was nearly empty when Sophie slid into the seat beside me. Her designer perfume couldn't mask the fear rolling off her in waves. They're watching all of us, she whispered, fingers trembling around her martini glass. Michael's not just angry anymore, he's desperate. I studied her perfectly manicured nails, remembering the credit card statements for the salon visits I'd paid for. Why should I care? Because Hannah's dead. The words hung between us like smoke. My glass stopped halfway to my lips. Car accident, Sophie continued, her voice barely audible. Last night. Very convenient timing, don't you think? My phone buzzed. Daniel, where are you? Michael's looking for you. He's not alone. What did Hannah know? I asked Sophie, ignoring the message. Everything. She glanced over her shoulder. The offshore accounts, the gambling debts, the real reason Robert's been moving money through shell companies. She was going to talk to the SEC. The bartender drifted closer. Sophie fell silent until he passed. Michael called me this morning, she said. Offered to clear my debts if I signed an affidavit saying you were behind everything, that you manipulated company records, forced him to make those transfers. My laugh sounded hollow. And you're telling me this out of the goodness of your heart? I'm telling you because Hannah was my friend. Her mascara smeared as she wiped her eyes. And because they're coming for you next. My phone buzzed again. Margaret. Robert's gone. Emptied the accounts. Left a note saying he's sorry. The room seemed to tilt. When did Hannah tell you about the accounts? She didn't. Sophie's smile was sharp as broken glass. But you just confirmed they exist. I stood so quickly my chair scraped across the floor. Sophie grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in. Sit down, she hissed. Look at the man by the door. the one pretending to read. I saw him now. Dark suit, earpiece poorly hidden. Another one at the bar, watching us in the mirror. Michael's not working alone anymore, Sophie said. The people he owes money to, they want their investment protected. Hannah threatened that protection. My phone, unknown number. Your friend Daniel is very cooperative when properly motivated. Midnight, the old warehouse. Come alone. Let go of my arm, I said quietly. Sophie released me, leaving crescent marks in my skin. You started this war, Elena. Did you really think there wouldn't be casualties? I walked out, forcing myself not to run. The man by the door spoke into his sleeve as I passed. In the parking lot, a black SUV idled 2 spaces from my car. My phone rang. Michael. Hello, darling. His voice was silk over steel. Having drinks with friends? What did you do to Daniel? Nothing permanent, yet. A pause. You know, it's funny. All this time trying to expose my secrets, and you never wondered about your precious friend's connection to everything. What are you talking about? Ask him about the offshore account transfers. Ask him who really helped set them up. Michael's laugh was soft. Oh, wait, you can't. He's a bit tied up at the moment. The SUV's engine revved. Midnight, Elena, bring the USB drive and every copy of the evidence you've collected, or Daniel won't be the only one paying for your curiosity. The line went dead. I sat in my car, hands gripping the wheel, mind racing. Daniel, my oldest friend, my confidant through all of this, had he been playing both sides? Another text from Sophie. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. Hannah thought she could outsmart them too. I started the engine, watching the SUV pull out behind me in the rearview mirror. 6 hours until midnight. 6 hours to decide who to trust, who to sacrifice, who to save. My phone buzzed one last time. Ethan. SEC moved up the timeline. They're raiding the offices tomorrow morning. Whatever you're going to do it now. I thought of Hannah, of Daniel, of all the pieces I'd thought I understood. The revenge I'd wanted had seemed so simple at first. Now it was a hydra, growing 2 new heads for everyone I cut off. The SUV stayed 3 cars behind as I drove, its headlights watching like patient eyes. I had until midnight to make a choice. Save myself, save Daniel, or burn the whole thing down and hope I survived the flames. The warehouse waited in the distance. A dark promise against the setting sun. The warehouse air reeked of rust and betrayal. Daniel sat tied to a chair in the center, his face a mess of bruises. 2 men in dark suits flanked him, while Michael leaned against a stack of crates, examining his phone with casual indifference. Right on time, he said, not looking up. Did you bring it? I held up the USB drive. Let him go first. That's not how this works anymore. Michael finally met my gaze, and I saw something new there, something unhinged. Show me what's on it. One of the suits produced a laptop. I plugged in the drive, watching Michael's face as he scrolled through the files. His expression darkened. Where are the offshore accounts, the transfer records? Gone. I forced myself to smile, just like Robert. Michael's hand shot out, grabbing my throat. Don't play games with me, not now. Michael, Daniel's voice was hoarse. She doesn't know everything. I never told her. Shut up. Michael's grip tightened. You had one job. Keep her distracted, keep her close, feed me information. And you couldn't even do that right. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Daniel's constant support, his convenient presence throughout my investigation. I'd been so blind. Elena. Daniel's eyes were pleading. I had to. They threatened my family. But I tried to protect you. By helping them track me, my laugh came out as a wheeze against Michael's grip. By reporting every move I made? Enough. Michael released me, turning to the suits. Search her car. She must have backup copies somewhere. As they left, Michael's phone buzzed. His face went pale as he read the message. The SEC. He threw the phone against the wall. They're moving in tonight. Someone tipped them off. His eyes narrowed. What did you do? Nothing. I rubbed my throat. But Sophie's been busy. Sophie. For the first time, real fear crossed his face. What are you talking about? Check your precious offshore account, the one ending in 4891. I watched comprehension dawn. She transferred everything an hour ago to Hannah's sister. Hannah's dead, he snapped. Yes, and her sister's a federal prosecutor. I felt a cold satisfaction seeing him unravel. Sophie made a deal, full immunity in exchange for everything she knows, which is apparently a lot more than you thought. Michael lunged for me, but Daniel somehow broke free, tackling him. They crashed into the crates as the suits rushed back in, weapons drawn. "Nobody move," one shouted. But Michael was beyond reason. He grabbed something from the fallen crates, a metal pipe, and swung it at Daniel's head. The crack echoed through the warehouse. Daniel crumpled. "No!" I screamed, running to him. Blood pooled beneath his head. "It's your fault," Michael was saying, his voice distant and strange. "All of this. You couldn't just stay quiet, play your part. Now look what you made me do." Sirens wailed in the distance. The suits exchanged glances and fled, leaving Michael standing over us, pipe still in hand. "They're coming for you," I said, cradling Daniel's motionless form. "All of them. SEC, FBI, Hannah's sister. It's over." "Nothing's over." He raised the pipe again. "I can still fix this. One more accident. One more loose end." The warehouse doors burst open. Margaret stood there, holding a gun with shaking hands. "Michael," she said, her voice breaking. "Put it down." "Mother?" He laughed, high and unnatural. "Come to save your precious daughter-in-law?" "I came to stop you from becoming your father." She stepped closer. "Robert killed himself an hour ago, in a hotel room in Singapore. I won't watch you follow him." Michael's face contorted. "You're lying." "The note's in my car, along with copies of everything. Every crime, every cover-up, going back 30 years. Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Drop it, Michael, please." The pipe clattered to the floor. As police lights flooded the warehouse, I held Daniel's cooling body and watched my husband collapse into himself, becoming something small and broken under the weight of his own destruction. The revenge I'd wanted had cost me everything. Daniel, my safety, my belief in justice. And as the officers swarmed in, I realized the true price of vengeance wasn't paid by its target, but by everyone caught in its wake. The night wasn't over, but I was. The courthouse corridor felt like a funeral home. I sat on the hard bench, watching Michael pace in his expensive suit, all his swagger reduced to nervous energy. The SEC investigation had frozen his accounts, but Lily's diamond bracelet still glinted on her wrist as she whispered in his ear. Sophie appeared at the far end of the hall, flanked by federal agents. Her designer heels clicked like a countdown. "Last chance, Elena." Michael's voice was low, desperate. "Tell them you orchestrated everything. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Like you took care of Hannah." His face twitched. Lily stepped back, suddenly uncertain. "Michael," she asked, "what's she talking about?" "Nothing, darling. Elena's just bitter." "Show her the phone, Lily." I stood, feeling strangely calm. "The one he bought you last week. Check the GPS history for the night Hannah died." Lily's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. Michael lunged for it, but one of the agents stepped between them. "That's enough, Mr. Anderson." Margaret's voice cut through the tension. She approached from the courtroom, holding a manila envelope. "The judge is ready for us." "Mother, please." Michael's mask cracked completely. "You can't do this to your own son. You did this yourself." She handed the envelope to the federal prosecutor. "Everything's here. 30 years of fraud, including Robert's suicide note. And this," she pulled out a single photograph, "is from the traffic camera near Hannah's accident." The image showed Michael's car, the timestamp matching the night of Hannah's death. "You said you were with me that night," Lily whispered, backing away. "You said—" "He says a lot of things." Sophie had reached us, her testimony folder clutched like a shield. "Ask him about the offshore account he set up in your name. The one he's using to frame you for tax evasion." The color drained from Lily's face. "What?" It's what he does, I said quietly. Uses people until they're no longer useful, then discards them. Hannah threatened to expose him. So she had an accident. Daniel got too close to the truth. So, shut up. Michael's composure shattered. He grabbed Lily's arm. Tell them I was with you that night. But Lily was already pulling away, tears streaking her makeup. You killed her? And tried to set me up to take the fall? The judge is waiting. The prosecutor stepped forward. Miss Chen's testimony about the offshore accounts matches our evidence exactly. Combined with Mrs. Anderson's documentation and the new evidence from Mrs. Margaret Anderson, Michael's laugh was hollow. Evidence from my own mother. She's grief-stricken, delusional. I'm quite lucid, Margaret interrupted. Lucid enough to wear a wire during our last 3 conversations, including your confession about Hannah. The hallway went silent. Michael looked around wildly, like a trapped animal. His eyes landed on me. You. He moved faster than the agents could react, his hands finding my throat. You turned them all against me. Then Lily's phone clattered to the floor, video playing. Michael's own voice confessing to Hannah's murder. GPS data confirming his location. He'd accidentally recorded everything on the phone he'd given her, thinking he was covering his tracks. The agents pulled him off me as he screamed accusations, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Lily fled down the hallway, Sophie smirked, and Margaret just looked tired. The thing about lies, Michael, I rasped, rubbing my throat, is that they multiply, like a cancer, until they destroy everything they touch. Mrs. Anderson? The prosecutor gestured toward the courtroom. We're ready for your testimony. I gathered my evidence folder, thinner now, most of its contents already submitted to the SEC and FBI. The case against Michael was airtight. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and now murder. His own arrogance had built the trap. I'd just helped him walk into it. Elena. His voice was different now, small, almost childlike. Please, don't do this. I thought of Daniel in his hospital bed, still unconscious. Of Hannah's sister, waiting inside to see justice done. Of all the lives Michael had casually destroyed in his pursuit of power and control. I'm not doing anything, Michael. This is just karma catching up. The courtroom doors opened, and I walked through without looking back. Behind me, I heard him break down completely, his sobs echoing through the corridor like the ghost of everything he'd lost. Sometimes revenge isn't about what you do. It's about stepping back and letting someone's own actions destroy them. The prison visiting room smelled of disinfectant and defeat. Michael sat across from me in his orange jumpsuit, the confident mask finally stripped away. Through the window behind him, snow fell on the exercise yard, covering everything in clean white silence. 20 years, he said, his voice hollow, plus restitution. I placed the divorce papers on the metal table between us. Sign them. His hand trembled as he reached for the pen. Was it worth it? Destroying everything we built. We didn't build anything, Michael. You constructed a fantasy, and I lived in it until I couldn't anymore. The pen scratched across paper. Each signature felt like a key turning in a lock. Daniel's awake, I said, watching his reaction. He remembers everything. Michael's pen paused. I never meant to get caught. To kill Hannah, to ruin your father. I collected the signed papers. That's the problem. You never meant for any of it to happen, but you kept making choices that led here. Elena, he reached across the table, but I pulled back. What happened to us? You happened to us. And now you're happening to yourself. Outside, Margaret waited in her car, engine running against the cold. She'd aged years in months, but her eyes were clearer now. It's done? She asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I nodded, watching the prison shrink in the side mirror. He signed everything, the restitution agreement, too. Hannah's sister gets control of the recovered assets. Good. She pulled onto the highway. The company board voted this morning. They're restructuring, keeping the legitimate parts. Ethan's cooperating with the investigation. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. Lily's gone to the DA, says she has more recordings. I deleted it without responding. Sophie had played her part, but I was done with all of them. The house sold, Margaret said quietly. Above asking price. The house where Michael had built his web of lies, where I'd lived in beautiful ignorance until the cracks appeared. Someone else would sleep there now, unaware of the ghosts in every room. What will you do now? Margaret asked. I touched the envelope in my bag. Not the divorce papers, but the other one. The one containing proof of my own secret. Documentation of every dollar I'd managed to recover. Traced through shell companies and offshore accounts. Money that even Michael didn't know existed, hidden by Robert before his death. Start over, I said. Somewhere new, she nodded, understanding more than I'd said. You know, revenge is supposed to feel empty. That's what they say, that it doesn't bring peace. This isn't about peace. I watched the snow erase the world outside. It's about truth. Everything hidden eventually comes to light. My phone buzzed again. Daniel. Coffee tomorrow. Doctor says I can have visitors now. I hesitated, then typed back. Rain check. Taking care of something first. Because Daniel had betrayed me too, even if he'd had his reasons. Even if he'd tried to protect me in the end. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Margaret pulled up to the airport departures terminal. You don't have to disappear, she said. Not everyone in your life was false. No, I gathered my single bag. But everyone was changed by it. She touched my arm before I could leave. The board transferred the recovered funds to your account this morning. Robert's hidden assets, legitimately claimed. You could rebuild here. I thought of Michael in his prison cell, of Sophie playing all sides, of Lily's desperate grab for immunity, of Daniel in his hospital bed, trying to make amends for choices that couldn't be undone. Sometimes, I said, rebuilding means walking away. The terminal was quiet, holiday travelers long gone. At the counter, my new passport waited, the final piece of preparation I'd made, while everyone else was focused on Michael's downfall. Because revenge wasn't just about destroying someone else's lies. It was about reclaiming your own truth. I checked in for a flight to a city I'd never seen, under a name that had never been touched by Michael's deceit. Behind me, Margaret's car disappeared into the snow, carrying the last witness to who I used to be. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you take from others, but what you keep for yourself. The power to write your own ending.